Hello everyone, it's me again, and today we're going to continue on our journey of creating the button widget for our project. So if you have not seen the tutorial I made before, you should go and watch it. It's about detecting gamepad input, which I can just input device changed. It gives us a value if we either are using a keyboard or mouse or a gamepad. As I said in the other tutorial, this does not give you any idea of what kind of gamepad you're using, so you will not know if you're using a Xbox or a PlayStation or some other gamepad. Okay, so let's jump right in. What we're going to create is a widget, and there's lots of classes. So if you go all the way down, there's a user widget, and from that we're just going to do widget. So this is a U widget, and the name I will call this button widget, and hit create. These U widgets, so for example the default, basically all of those default widgets are inherited from U widget, and then they usually contain a slate widget which begins with S. So you've got U image, which usually holds, for example, a S image. And okay, I have errors. So before we care about these, because I've got no idea what they are, if we just go into here. So everything in here is essentially a U widget, which then again inherits from a S widget. So what are our errors? Changes to generated code are not allowed. Okay. Whatever we did to your generated code, I don't know. Let's just open our IDE here and let's just... okay, we've got this error once again. Whatever that is. Okay, loading button label project. So if we just go and quit this one and just hit Ctrl-Shift-B, then this should, in theory, just... oh, we've got nothing to run on. Let's just wait for it to load everything. Executing build. So I feel like this shouldn't bear any errors. I don't know why we don't have rebind packages available, because it's not like we did anything. Like the only thing that I could maybe abstract this is from having a bad build.cs or a bad target.cs, but we didn't change anything in our target.cs. And we've only added a few things into our build.cs, so I don't know where this whole thing is coming from. Okay. Yes, button widget. So this is, as we said before, it's a U widget, and yeah. Let's just go ahead and begin with a couple of things. Okay, so first of all, we want to override a couple of members. Okay, so what we want to override is there's usually a function that's called synchronize properties. And there's also accessible widget, and also rebuild widget, if I am not mistaken. Yes, and also what we go to override is get palette category, and also release slate resources. All right, so all right. Just some things we should keep in mind is the accessibility. I always want to say accessibility widget, but that's not the case. If with accessibility, and if so, we need this one. Otherwise, we might get errors in the future when we want to package or create anything like this. Let's begin with properties. Okay. So first of all, we're going to create a constructor. Then new property slate brush, another U property, edit anywhere, and it's we're going to make it blueprint read only, and put it in the category of appearance. Name input binding. Then, oh yeah, what we have to do as well, I think, is we have to declare a delegate for declare dynamic delegate return value name, and we'll call it fGetName. We'll get to that in a second, but yeah, let's just go on new property fGetName, and then input binding delegate. Yeah, your property edit anywhere. Again, blueprint read only. So what I did with in creating this widget is essentially I've just taken a look at on GitHub or in the engine source for the U widget, and then this is essentially a modified version of the U image widget. So you can go ahead and take a look at that for yourself if you want. Appearance and meta sRGB equals true. Linear color and opacity. We'll go all about all of these values in a second. Then there's fget linear color and opacity delegate. Oh yeah, something we might want to include here is UMG, Unreal Motion Graphics, and also put this one into U property. Yeah, what next? U property, edit anywhere, localization, flip for right to left, flow direction, and another edit anywhere events. Nope. And meter is bindable event true. F on pointer event on mouse button down. So did I put a dot instead of comma? Yes, I did. And also F delegate handle input changed delegate, which we're going to do a U property on as well. We need this because we're going to bind to another delegate in a second. So with that out of the way, we're going into the protected realm of our widget. And there's another few member variables we need to set. So t-shirt pointer of as image, and I just call this image widget. Within the U image class, I call this just my image, but doesn't really matter as long as you don't get confused. Streamable handle, streaming handle. So what we should be able to do here is just forward declare this f streaming handle. This should be f streamable handle. No, I'm right. Handle. Soft object path, streaming object path, and we're also going to do, and let's just do it right here, property binding implementation, slide name, input binding, and same thing here. Slate color and opacity. All right, so this should be all our properties. So let's go about them. So we've got the input binding and the linear color, and I don't have Unreal open at the moment. I can't. Where is it? Let's just go about it, open it without recompiling. Okay, so let's just open this side by side. Widget blueprint, okay. So compare it with image because that's as close as we can get to the real thing. So what we have here is first of all color and opacity, which is this one right here. Then we've got input binding, which is a custom one. This will be there. There's fgetName and fgetLinearColor, and we did define fgetName ourselves. But what this does is with this property binding implementation, we get this binding thing where we can bind stuff and then this function will get called, and essentially a delegate will be executed to this get color and opacity _0. It's now in this case, which is why we need those fgetLinearColor and fgetName. Now, I wouldn't advise anyone from using these things ever. These bindings, there's only limited use cases, I'd say. They can be very expensive because they run every frame to check if your value has changed, and again, only if you have really something that changes every frame, then you might want to use the binding, but not for something like your color and opacity, or for your brush, which holds pointers to your to the resource. So yeah, there's that. Then we've also got the pointer event, which, if we go to events, is this one right there. On mouse button down, create a binding just as well for this stuff. Yes, so with that out of the way, we'll go into creating some functions. Okay. So we've already got our Unreal pre-generated functions, but we want to create a bunch more, and we'll begin at the top because they're all going to be, not all of them, but a few of them. Function, yeah, function 8, blueprint callable, and category appearance, set color and opacity in color and opacity. Appearance and set opacity float in opacity. These functions are just for our blueprints later on, and we can also call them from within our class in C++. Set input binding in binding. Just something to keep in mind. So when you work with this, it's probably a bit better to keep everything in some order. So we've got our input binding first here. We're going to set our input binding first here. And well, again, it's not really needed, but it's probably best practice to just void on input type changed. We're going to bind to this function later on. Set brush from texture texture to the pointer texture. Then set brush from soft texture, soft object pointer, texture to the soft texture. And we're going to use these because we don't want to have a couple hundred textures of all of our buttons loaded at all times. Probably not a good advice. Yeah. Which is why we're going to use these. Request async load. Soft object pointer. object. And t function. Void. Callback. This essentially makes it a so only R values we can pass in. Virtual void request async load, Same thing, U object. However, this time we're going to use the streamable delegate. Oh no. Oh no. Well, let's just do it this way then. Delegate to call. And we probably also want to avoid cancel image streaming. And well, we can implement these on image streaming started and complete, but in the uImage class they don't really use it at all. Oh yeah, also this one needs to be within the if with editor things. Alright, so let's generate some definitions. Yes, okay, just all of them go. And just make sure to wrap these around the with editor. And this one, accessibility. Good. All right. So we'll begin with a constructor, and we're going to default set color and opacity to linear color white, and we're also going to set our, well, let's probably not do it this way, and our input binding to name none. Okay. So what we probably also want to do is define log text namespace, and we're going to define it as a button widget and text namespace. All right, so let's go to some to these overridden functions down there. Okay, so accessible widget, just going to return our image widget. And cannot have t-shirt pointer. Oh, it's got swidget, but I've got simage. Shouldn't that not be a problem? Probably have to include our image somewhere. Let's have a look. I don't know. We're going to see down the line. I cannot think of anything right now. Yeah, this one will return log text. Common. We wanted the common category, which is essentially where it will be located within the editor. Flip for right to left flow direction. Yeah, I think we should just include simage here. Include, well, I think it's probably just widgets, images, simage. Yeah, this should get rid of this and the other one. We're going to create a new simage here, and this one is, and we just pass in this right to left layout arrangement bool, and then we're going to return image widget to shared reference, and that is that. So synchronize properties. So with that, we're first going to call synchronize property on the parent class, and then put changed delegate is valid. The reason why we check if this one is valid first is because we don't want to bind something twice to it. It's probably not the best idea. Oh, before we go to there, we probably need to define our delegate right here. Yes. Declare multicast delegate f on input device changed. Oh, I don't know if that is such a good idea. What have we called on our input processor? F on input device change delegate, huh? Well, it's probably the same, which is not really a great idea. We should not call it the same. Let's just call it F change button labels delegate. Not a great name. And put it right here. So look at on. It's just input device changed delegate, and also while we're here, going to call it device change delegate broadcast. Current. No. New input device. Great. Just so we can bind to that in a second. So auto reference game module equals module manager get module checked. In our case, this will be the F button label game module. And it's called button label project, I believe. Then we're going to hit Alt Enter so it automatically includes this one. And we say we're good. I am pretty sure that's what it's called here, right? Yes, button label project. Yes. And then the input change delegate is equal to game module input device change delegate add U object this class, and we're going to on input type changed. Great. Let's make this a bit more uniform so we don't go out of our line limit. Okay, so with that, we've made sure that our delegate is bound and won't be bound twice or something. T attribute F slate color. This is going to be for our color and opacity binding. I've always got those in the wrong order, but property binding F slate color, color and opacity. Attribute F name. Now I don't have a better name for this input binding. It's a binding of our property that we call binding. Not a great name. But what shall we do? Input binding. So another thing, if image widget is valid, we want to do first of all this set input binding, and we're going to put it into our property binding. Then image widget, set image, and we're going to set our brush. Now this see this wants a pointer to a slate brush, and we'll give it our address of our brush. Image widget, set color and opacity, and going to give it our color and opacity binding. So in theory, input binding, I don't know, no, this won't work, okay. Don't know why I thought it would. Those are going to set on mouse button down. Probably want a T attribute anyway. Pointer event handler, handle mouse button down. Do we not have this anywhere? Handle mouse button down. Is that not what we've called it? On mouse button down. Oh no, this is a function. Probably should set this one as well before we go ahead. Protected. Reply handle mouse button down. Geometry F pointer event mouse event. Good. I'll also create a implementation for this one, and now we don't got any errors on here anymore. Alright, release slate resources. Next thing we should probably tackle. In this case, we're just going to call again the parent function and image widget reset. That's everything we need to call within here. So within this function, if on mouse button down is bound, return on mouse button down execute geometry mouse event native reply. Otherwise return f reply unhandled. Good. So that leaves us with those functions that we've created ourselves. So set input binding. Input binding equals in binding. And we're also going to check if image widget is valid. And in here, we're then going to assign new texture. What we could do much rather is just on input type changed, and this will do it the exact same thing, just so we have everything in one function and not copy all the same thing 3 times. Set color and opacity. Color and opacity in color. Nope. Nope. And opacity. And then if image widget is valid, image widget, set color and opacity, color and opacity. It's almost the same thing here. Color and opacity dot a equals in opacity, and then just if image widget is valid, image widget set color and opacity to the color and opacity. Well, we're going to leave this one for now because we'll need to do one or two things extra for now. Set brush from texture. Okay, so this is if brush.getResourceObject is not equal to texture. Brush.setResourceObject texture, and if our texture does not point to nothing, we're going to force levels to be resident, and we're also going to ignore streaming MIP bias. 1 second. Just let me drink something real quick. All right. Also going to set our brush image size to the texture get size X, and the same thing Y, texture get size Y. And then if image widget is valid, image widget set brush, no, set image to the address of our brush. And again, almost same thing for here, just that we're going to no, uButton image is not what it's called, it's uButton widget. uButton image is what I called it in the first place. I'm going to hold a weak reference to this, and going to do request async load. We're going to need this and we're also going to create a lambda. So what we need to capture is first of all weak this, and then also the soft texture, and we do not have any parameters that are being passed in. So the reason why we call weak this or create a weak this is view button widget is because we don't necessarily know if this button widget is still going to be there when the loading finishes. Now there is only a slight chance for this not happening, but the reason being that our weak object pointer can just make sure that we don't crash the engine if it doesn't. And no, I don't want to run anything. Just making sure that this does not happen. Ensure message. Now this is something that I've just copied one-to-one. Soft texture get. So we want to make sure that our texture is there and not not nothing. And ensure is it's one of those macros that it tries to make sure that this is happening, and if not, it's going to handle the ensure is what it can't tell you exactly what it does, but with this function we can also log a message after the ensure is handled, and it gives you a call stack in log, for example, if this is not true. So in this case we want to get the soft texture to soft object path and then to string, because we want to log the object that we cannot retrieve. And then strong this set brush from texture. So this is essentially just this function being called. And so again, with this weak this, we just make sure that if strong this is not null pointer, or weak object pointer should go to null pointer in case this gets deleted. Yeah. So then we go to the request async load, because it's this function that we're calling here. And in our case, we're calling it with this callback and not this delegate to call. But what this will do with this overloaded function, we just call the did I not give it a name? No. Soft object, and also the same for here probably, huh? No. Soft object and streamable delegate, create lambda, and callback to move it. All right. We're almost there. So first of all, if we request another async load and there's still one going on, we want to cancel it, obviously. No need to keep things running that don't have to also. Who knows when the other image streaming is finished. The object strong equals soft object dot get. What this essentially does is we're going to check if our object may already be loaded, maybe from a previous, maybe it was already loaded in a previous instance, and in this case, just if it's still loaded, just return it. No need to reload it from disk or anything. So yeah, within there, there's the on image streaming started. Again, these are empty functions. You could just call here a function that's called on image streaming started, and then I don't know if you have any operations you want to do within that time frame, you could do this. Weak object pointer, you button widget, weak this once again, and the streaming object path will be soft object to soft object path, and streaming handle will be you asset manager get streamable manager request async load. So before we go ahead and do anything, we need to call asset manager, and it's defined in asset manager and .h. So just going to include asset manager, asset manager.h. This is not how it's done. No, it's engine/asset manager. Okay. Engine asset manager. And as you can see, errors already not there anymore. So this will once more we'll use a lambda in there. So first of all, no, streaming object path, and then again we're going to capture weakness and delegate to call and soft object. So in case you don't know what I mean with going to capture, so with a lambda functions you get these brackets, and with them you can capture things. So for example, we want to use weakness from within this code block, right? And also soft texture, which is our parameter here. And you could, in theory, also pass in parameters with these parentheses, but in our case we don't need any, we don't have any. This function does not call with any parameters. So we're just going to capture weakness, delegate to call, and soft object, and just so we have them within this context of this lambda. View button widget pointer, and then again strong this equals weakthis.get, and then also another if strong this streaming object path does not equal to soft object path. If we somehow point to the wrong thing, we're not going to do anything. Otherwise, delegate to call, execute if bound. And then we're also going to do after here streamable manager. Now this is essentially the last async load high priority, and what this does is essentially the last parameter of this function. Now one thing to keep in mind is you don't want to call request async load with a null pointer, because this will give you, or an invalid soft object pointer, let's say it this way, because it will just log errors as hell. I've experienced this myself, and we do not want that. Now we need to cancel image streaming. So we're just going to check if streaming handle is valid. Then what we're gonna do is streaming handle cancel handle, and streaming handle reset. And we're also our streaming object path reset. So I think this was already the biggest part of it. We're now going to go into our input type change thing. So before we go into this, how are we going to do this? Let's just hit compile first and start up the engine in case have any errors. Should be seeing it. We shouldn't have, but it's just hope for the best. Oh yeah, this cannot be a U property apparently. Okay, now we should be fine. Running Unreal header tool. So we're just going to start up, and a few things we're going to need. So the way I do it myself, or I did it in the past, and how I'm going to do it again is we're going to need a data table which holds the a map essentially for f key to if you're going to input f key to a texture, to a U texture 2D. So and the way we're going to retrieve this data table is by first of all creating a developer settings function. Yeah, let's just keep calling it my developer settings. There's no harm done. Let's just also open up these things within my notepad so I can have a quick look. Yeah, okay. Where are we? Apparently the include path is wrong. Oh, did we actually hot reload? Huh. That's something new. Yeah, okay, it seems like we destroyed the writer package. I just need to... No, don't pin. Yeah, that's one of those. I don't know, it's probably a bit of a bug, but I can live with it. As long as it doesn't get any worse. So, did we refresh? Alright, let's just refresh once again. No, we already did it. It says here, but let's just do it once again and now open it. Alright, loading components. Reopening files, preparing workspace, great stuff. So, what we want to do here is wait for writer to catch itself. I've also managed to misspell this one. Coiprite. Who doesn't know Coiprite? So, what we want to create is go into public and a U property, edit defaults only, and blueprint read only, and category equals input. It's also going to be a config variable, and within this one, config equals. I just like to put engine in there in case. It's probably better than having an input, because input, well, there's probably more people going to be trying to modify their input settings by hand than their engine settings. So virtual f name. Oh yeah, before we can just generate these ones. Alright, so get category name, get section name, and also get container name. So we're going about these in a second one again. Just put all of these in the header. So container name, we're going to return game. Category name, in this case, we just call it button label settings. Oh yeah, show us a return. And section name, we're going to return project. So if we hit compile, Wait for it to run. Alright, so if you go into our project settings, so project settings, this is the container name, which, no, I've messed it up. See, I'm an stupid person. Yeah, so container name is essentially get either editor or project settings, and then game. This is the category name. So we've got project, we've got game, we've got engine, we've got editor, platforms, and plugins, and also in this case now our own apparently. Did I mess it up this bad? Get category name. Category name should be game. Yeah, see, I messed it up pretty bad. I've got everything wrong you could get wrong. Yeah, but container is, as I said, and then we've got the category name, which is now resolved to, oh, it was there at first, okay, which is now here, and then we have our soft pointer to this one. Okay, so before we go ahead any more, what we want to do is within the, so I did it within my project.h. You can do it wherever you want. Honestly, doesn't. You could, in theory, also do it in the widget. I more or less want to do it here. So we're going to create a uStruct and f key to texture. That's what I call it. It needs a generated body, and because we do macros like these here, we need to include the button label project.generated.h. Don't worry if it can't be found now. It's gonna be soon. So in this case, we're just going to create a uProperty. Edit anywhere. F key, and also the soft object pointer to uTexture2D. Texture. That's all we're going to need. We need to, however, derive it from f table row base as is defined in datatable.h. Going to hot reload once more. All right, now we're there. I don't know why it's so called my developer settings. Maybe that's just a hot reloading mistake or something, but let's not bother with it too much. So if you go into miscellaneous, we can now create a data table with key to texture. Now you don't have to do a data table if you have a better idea of doing anything. Go ahead and do it how you see fit. Now data table key to texture map, that's what I call it. And here we can now in theory just add our keys and stuff. So yes, there are some things that I'd like to address here. Before we go ahead, let's just make sure. No, that's the wrong one. First of all, if we're going to set this, and we're going to, let's just save this one and set this as default, then we should, in the very theory, go into game, config default engine. Yes. So this is where the path is set to our to that thing. Okay. So there's actually a couple of ways we could do this. However, probably the best one is to, if we set our key, let's say we want to have a face button bottom, right? That's just on Xbox that is A, on PlayStation that should be X. Then what we could do or should is just have the name of the row gamepad face button bottom. And so maybe here we want to do the face button left. Gamepad face button left. Right, that should be X on the Xbox and square on the PlayStation, if I'm not mistaken. So the way I did it was I just, in my project, I created a detailed customization for this, and well, much rather for this, and then I just let it insert all the keys into this data table, with the row name being essentially the f name of this key, and as you can see, the key name, and that's just it. Now I'm pretty sure I still have a couple of let's just let this one. Oh god, why is this so slow? So we'll just have a couple of keys here, something I can show you. Let's just go with the PlayStation one, and we're also going to add so just import those four really quickly, and also go with I don't know, in this case probably let's go with mouse left, mouse right, and also let's do F, and I don't know, let's say L. Okay. So button bottom should be this one, button left should be this one. Let's do the triangle, and let's do this the circle, and then the triangle should be face button top, and this one should be face button right. Doing this from hand can be tedious. I wouldn't do it that way. Again, as I said, the way I did it was I had textures named after the buttons, and then I just had them sorted in automatically, and then select the asset by the path, because I found this to be much more easy. Yes, so what else do we have? We have the mouse, left mouse button. We also have right mouse button. We then have F, and well, maybe I should select key from the keyboard, F, and then we also have the L key. L. Again, here we're going to make L, F, and then mouse 3 left, and here it's going to be mouse 3 right, And another thing we want to consider is make sure they are of compression settings, user interface 2D. Can I like compression should be here, right? Compression quality, compression settings, user interface 2D, and then there's also like texture group or something. Texture group, and we're just going to put this into UI and hit save. What is with you? Are you not part of this? No map maps, texture group, UI. Great. So now that we have this, if we, by the way, go into this right now and open it up, we should be able to put our button widget here. And it's just, again, empty thing. But we can, in theory, also assign it to an input, which we're going to create right now. Create a couple of input bindings, why not? You can do it with action and axis mappings. Doesn't really matter. Let's do top, left, right, and bottom, and then just have here face button bottom. And we're going to match this with our keyboard L. Then face button top. No, this is right. Maybe I should think about what I'm doing. This will be, I don't know, F is probably left, face button left. You got it, face button top. Left mouse button. And then this one will be the right mouse button. Okay. Very well done. This, yeah, so we can just assign this to top for now. Doesn't change anything within here. And with that out of the way, we are basically ready to go into our on input type changed. So what I would do here is brush.set resource object null pointer, and then what we should do is, so if image widget is valid, and within this one, what we want to do is yeah, what we want to do is get our puzzle module, get module, no, puzzle module. Puzzle is the other project. I'm not even looking at the thing on my other monitor. Just call it game module. Button label project and F button label game module. All right. Game module yeah, so what we want to do here is essentially request, no, not request async load. We want to do set brush from soft texture. And with that, we go into our button label project and create a function that returns a shared a soft object pointer to your texture 2D, and get texture for key, and let's get separate of input name. And no, that's not where we want to be. We want to be here. And on input type change, yeah. So, and here we're going to game module get texture for key, and this will be input binding. So now if we go into this, and we're going to generate the implementation, what we want to do is, if we don't have anything, return just null pointer. Then we're going to get default my developer settings and auto dev settings. Great. Also put settings, get default, your input settings. These are also going to be const, because you can get mutable default, which is where you can change things by hand, which can be handy for example, input settings. But the general idea is that that we don't want to change anything here right now, which is why we're going to do it const. Just key u data table pointer to. Oh yes, what we also probably want to do is this is more or less, we want to do this on startup module. Is we want to settings key map pointer and add to root. No, this should be load synchronous, add to root. So this is just a simple data table, and we load it on startup, and we can just leave this in memory. There shouldn't be much harm done by this. If we add it to the root set, it will not get unloaded or garbage collected, which is important. We don't want this to be garbage collected and slipped out from our feed. Also, we're going to create a u data table pointer, key map equals dev settings, key map pointer get. All right. So with that, we can just loop through it, and because we have input name, input settings, and get in this case action mapping by name, you can just do this exact same thing, but with the input mapping. With the access mapping, just repeat the whole thing, just things are called a bit differently. Going to have input action key mapping found mappings. So and then we're going to loop through these. So in this case, found mapping, so for const auto reference found mapping and found mappings. What we want to do is just check, and now we also have to loop through our data table. This is probably not the best method to do it, but oh yeah, something we probably should make sure is that if key map get row struct equals to our f key to texture static struct. So we probably want to return if it's not equal. Return null pointer, because we cannot retrieve anything and we don't want to go that far. Yes. Okay, so key map for each row. I think get row. So see it row or find row. Well, we could do find row. Okay, find row f key to texture and f key to texture pointer data. So the name will be found mapping dot key dot get f name. Then we also have a f string context. So what this context string is essentially. And what is the last thing we need to? There were 3. One if row missing. Just hit false. Or we could do true, I don't know. Yeah, essentially what this is doing is just making sure that this context string, if we get any errors or something, we can just read it out, and that's that. But however, we do not necessarily want to continue on here, because first of all, we want to check if current input device equals gamepad and our found mapping dot key. So, and if this is not the case, hit continue. And the same if current and well, okay, this should be kind of obvious. If it's not, then it should be one of the other. Alright, so data, turn data texture. It should be as simple as that. Now if I hit compile, I hope I do not get any errors, but who knows. Haven't gotten any errors as of yet. Oh, I think, yes, we just crashed the engine. Unhandled except get texture for key. 58. Okay, so probably first if data. First of all, make sure if this is a valid pointer, and context. No, what have I done? Oh, I hit tab. No. Is empty. And do we crash again? No! Hey, there it is. So, just wondering. Left mouse button is not in data table. Alright, so if we go into here, yeah, we haven't named it, see? Which is why exactly in theory you should have like a map with name and the other shit. Hit save, and I don't know if we probably have to. Let's just restart with that for a second. As you've seen, we already got the triangle showing. Better than nothing, I'd say. So let's go back to here. Okay, so we've got our left mouse button. And now we've got the... see, and if we go and name this none, it's just going to be empty, and we shouldn't have any... Well, request async load called with empty or null assets. Well, this didn't work out as I wanted. Yeah, okay. Still need to fix this one. If we go left, this will be this one, and then square, and bottom will be L and dx, and right should be our... So, we've got this one already. Now we need to still have a look at why this... well... question is, do we ever return a null pointer? We should not, in my world. So let's go into this one. So set brush from texture, and is it this line? Hello? Is my comment not worth anything anymore? Oh god. Okay, so I guess the reason being what we should do is just check. Okay, so auto texture equals this, and then if texture is valid, just do this, and probably still wanna... oh crap, still wanna do this, so we probably want to reset it, whatever. Okay, so if we hit it with the bottom, oh, I probably just want to restart it once more, huh? Because we still want to reset it if there's nothing. Like, we don't want to still show the triangle for an action that we just haven't registered, or something that's broken, right? So if we go to left, see, but none of those is valid. Why are they not valid? If, well, let's just say if it's not null, right? This should make a difference. Huh? Should it? Should it not? Do I have this open twice now? Yes, I have. Well, that's stupid. How long is this already going? Almost 1.5 hours. God. Okay. So we've got our left mouse button. Now we've got our triangle. If we set this to none. No, we don't get the errors anymore. This is good. Okay. And as you can see, so when I hit a key on my keyboard, it's going to L. And this is just, well, always hitting V. So let's just make this, copy this a couple times. Then we've got, no, whatever I did not want to do this. All right. And then we have right, top, and left. And as you can see, it works as wanted. That's it. Bye.